Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
Oh man, have you guys ever ordered something special order from Walmart? I cannot recommend it any less than I'm about to recommend it. It's awful. Don't do it. Anyways, welcome to episode 4 of the Kenobi Cast. I was going to say hello there like Obi-Wan Kenobi does at the beginning of every episode, but I don't know. I'm not going to do that. It seems weird, and I sound funny. Funnier than I would sound regularly. Today, I'm going to do a double book review of two Star Wars books, obviously, that I've just finished. One is Crash of Fate, and the other one is Thrawn Treason. So, I don't have either of those books here. One I read as an ebook, the other one I listened to as an audiobook. So I'm going to start with the audiobook, which was Crashes of Fate. Did I say Crashes of Fate? I meant Crash of Fate. Anyways, Crash of Fate is by Zoraida Cordova, and it is a young adult novel. Now, don't let that put you off of any of the Star Wars novels that are young adult. Some of them are the best novels in the modern canon. Specifically, I think Lost Stars is considered a young adult novel. Maybe the best Star Wars book I've read in the last few years. Queen's Shadow, Ahsoka, like there's some very, very good young adult novels, which they're generally more focused on... Actually, you know what? I don't know what makes them young adult. Maybe there's less violence in them, but there's definitely some more adult themes in them, which maybe they're shorter or slightly easier to read, but regardless, they're fantastic, and you should not let the moniker of young adult put you off from reading any of them. I think that they are great. This particular book, it's about a relationship between two people named Izzy and Jules. Izzy Garcia and Jules something. I'll put it down below. I didn't make notes. Jules is from Batuu, and Izzy lives on Batuu, and they're childhood friends, and then Izzy's parents have to leave Batuu suddenly, leaving Jules behind, and through some circumstances, Izzy ends up back on Batuu, and they reconnect, and a relationship blooms, and they fall in love, and it's a great book. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I will say that the little Easter eggs and nuggets about Batuu that tie in with Galaxy's Edge, I think it's fantastic, and I'm headed to Galaxy's Edge it's August, in 2 months. 2.5 months. My daughter and I are heading down to Galaxy's Edge for a couple of days, and just reading about Batuu and Black Spire Outpost in this novel has got me really excited. Like, I was already really excited to go to Galaxy's Edge, but just the tie-ins and stuff from this novel to Black Spire Outpost and Galaxy's Edge, I think is really, really cool. There's a lot of little nuggets in there that you can go and try to find when you're at Galaxy's Edge, and there's a lot of sayings that the cast members use when you're at Galaxy's Edge that are part of the conversations in this novel. One Easter egg that I think is in this novel, and I'm not 100% sure, I guess that I'll find out later on this year. There's another novel coming out called Force Collector, and I'm pretty sure that character from that novel makes a brief appearance in this novel. I think. I guess we'll find out in a few months. But yeah, I think overall it's a good novel. It's maybe not my favorite Star Wars novel, but still, as an audiobook, I thought it was very enjoyable. The production quality is excellent. The reader, who also I can't remember, but I'll put down below, or the narrator, whatever they're called in an audiobook, did a great job, did all the voices, and there's that sort of underlying sound production of these Star Wars audiobooks that is always quite good. Crash of Fate, I keep calling it Crashes of Fate. It's Crash of Fate. Check it out. Let's talk about Thrawn Treason now. So this is the third book in Timothy Zahn's new Thrawn trilogy. He did a Thrawn trilogy back in the old EU, which is now Legends. This is in the modern canon, the current timeline, the Disney era, whatever you want to call it. This book also has, I think, a lot of tie-ins to... it's going to have a lot of tie-ins with Episode 9. It's got some tie-ins with Galaxy's Edge. They're doing such a great job of tying all these different things in universe together. The most interesting thing for me is the Chiss Ascendancy and their Force-wielding navigators. They're not Force-wielders in the typical Jedi Sith sense, where they use it to levitate stuff and do mind tricks on you and lightsaber fight and all that stuff. They actually use the Force to navigate through hyperspace, which we saw in Thrawn Alliances, where it was talked about between Thrawn and Vader actually navigated a ship through hyperspace without using Navi computers. That's taken to another level here with actually seeing the Chiss navigators in action. There's one in particular named Vanya, who typically Chiss navigators lose, is it called second sight? That's what they call the Force. They lose that ability after a certain age, so it's only the very young that are able to do this, and typically they age out and they lose their second sight. Navigator Vanya keeps her second sight well into her adulthood. I believe she's supposed to be in her 20s in this novel, which is much longer, and they want to figure out why she's been able, or how she's been able to keep this ability longer. Now, another interesting fact that I don't actually think is mentioned in this novel, but it was mentioned in Thrawn Alliances, is that sort of the slang name for these Chiss navigators, they call them Skywalkers. Episode 9 is called The Rise of Skywalker. They're going to Batuu, which is where a lot of Thrawn Alliances was based. There's a lot going on with this novel. I think out of the 3 Thrawn novels by Timothy Zahn, the new novels in canon, this would be my 3rd favorite. I think the original Thrawn, just Thrawn, where he is found by the Empire and goes through the academy with Eli Vanto and all that stuff, I think that's my favorite. The second book, Thrawn Alliances, which is sort of a jumping back and forth between Clone Wars and the Empire, between Thrawn as a member of the Empire and Thrawn as just a random Chiss guy, and between Anakin and Vader. I think that's my 2nd favorite. This would be my 3rd favorite. Eli Vanto does make a return in this. He is basically a lieutenant in the Chiss Ascendancy now. He was sent off by Thrawn, and it turns out he's there to try to find a pattern to figure out why Vanya is able to keep her second sight for as long as she has, but he doesn't know that until the end of the novel. There's a lot of great tactical stuff, which I think is the perfect way to talk about Thrawn. He's a master tactician. If you watched Rebels at all, like that was his whole thing, was analyzing his enemy through their art and just being very analytical and precise, and very different from other commanders in the Empire, in the Imperial Navy. He's obviously not a human, which is something very unusual for the Empire, especially at the level of Grand Admiral. And yeah, like I said, like it's my 3rd favorite, but the scale between the 3 is very close, and I think as a trilogy, it's an excellent final book in the trilogy. It makes me wonder what's next for Thrawn. If you watched Rebels, you know that him and Ezra Bridger ended up in the Outer Rim or Wild Space, or we're not exactly sure where they ended up, but they're alive and they're out there somewhere. And it just, I question Thrawn's actual allegiance to the Empire. Like, I know that while he's committed to it and while the Emperor is alive, that he will stand behind what he has agreed to do. But with the Emperor being dead and him being out in wild space with a Jedi, I wonder what that means, if anything, relating to Episode 9. I guess we'll have to wait and see. It could not be a part of it at all, or it could be just like a little Easter egg for people like me that dive a little farther in universe than the typical moviegoer. Probably if you're watching something like this, you're like me and you want to know the extra stuff in the Star Wars universe, aside from the films and maybe the TV shows. Both of these novels, I think, have great tie-ins throughout the entire Star Wars universe, and they're great. And I still haven't found a bad Star Wars novel. Actually, no. What was that Luke Skywalker one where it was told like in the third person through him? That one wasn't. I didn't like that one. I think that's it. Thanks for hanging out. May the Force be with you. All that stuff that we're supposed to say at the end of a Star Wars video. And I will see you in the next one. Oh, and you can follow me on Instagram at KenobiCast. I'm also on Twitter. I don't really tweet much from that account. So if you want to follow me on Twitter and see more Star Wars stuff along with my other ramblings, you can follow me at WFLBC. I'll link all that stuff below. You can follow me on Instagram at WFLBC too. I do some photography and whatever. So come hang out, come say hi, and let's talk about Star Wars. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.
517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control. 316, report to control. 5-3 to upper bay door.